Okay. Two-dimensional figures, shapes. Complete the table with formulas for perimeter, circumference, and area. Perimeter is the distance around a shape. I hope you remember that. Yes, perimeter, distance around a shape. Circumference would be the distance around a circle. Let me write that down. Circumference is the distance around a circle. So if you have a circle, the distance around it would be circumference. And then area is the space inside a shape. We're going to complete this table, pretend it goes down this way, with equations for perimeter and area. Now perimeter, there is equations for perimeter, but the best way to remember perimeter is just add up all the sides. So perimeter is when you add up all the sides. When we're talking about a circle, when we talk about the perimeter of a circle, we don't say perimeter of a circle, we actually say circumference. That's the actual word for the distance around a circle. There is an equation for that. And the equation is circumference equals pi times diameter. Some of you might have used it in Khan Academy yesterday. Has anybody's teacher ever told them a way to remember that equation? Like, any shortcut to remember that? I've never heard one either until one of my teacher friends, and this is a very teacher thing to do. This is how I remember it. C the potty. C equals pi d. And why? She said that, here's the story, and hopefully this will make you remember the equation too. It's a weird story. She was talking about potty training her daughter, and when you're potty training kid, you have like the little play potty, and your kid gets all excited when they use the potty, and her kid would come up to her and be like, see the potty, pi d, see the potty, and it sounded to her like the kid was saying the equation for circumference. So see the potty, or C equals pi d, might help you remember too, but now every time I see that equation, I think of see the potty. See the pi d. So maybe that will stick with you and haunt you for the rest of your life. Maybe it won't, but see the potty. Circumference equals pi times diameter. Pretty easy equation. Of course, diameter is all the way across the circle. So you just take that length and multiply it by pi, either the pi button in the calculator or 3.14. Perimeter of these, you just add up the sides. I think you're pretty good with that. As far as area of these shapes, area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. And base would be right here. And then the height is the perpendicular height from the bottom of the triangle to the top. Square. I feel like the equation for square is put in so many different ways. Sometimes it's S area equals S squared. Sometimes they put S times S. To be honest, when I think of the area of a square, it's just like length times width, just like a rectangle. So that's how we'll put it, just length times width. But of course, for a square, these two numbers would be the same. Rectangle, same thing, length times width. To find the area there. And then area of a circle is the same equation that you used yesterday. Area equals pi r squared. Which if they gave you the diameter, you would have to divide that by 2 and then plug it into the equation. Okay, now we're going to look at some practice problems. It says, find the perimeter or circumference of each figure. So perimeter is the distance around that shape. They labeled all the sides, which is nice, so all we have to do is add up these 4 numbers to find perimeter of this shape. So 18 plus 20 plus 20 plus 40. When you're adding, I usually do whatever I can do easily in my head first. And we get 98 yards. Number 5, same idea, just adding up all the sides to find the perimeter. Then number 6, we're finding the circumference and see the potty. The thing is, they gave us radius, but we need diameter. So all the way across, 11 times 2 would be 22. So that's what we're going to plug into the equation. And I'll use 3.14 for pi times 22. And this comes out to pretty easy so far, right? Now we're going to look at area. Again, just review. Area of a rectangle would be length times width. So here we would have 12 times 5 or 5 times 12. It really doesn't matter. And the area equals 60 meters squared. Then for 8, area of a circle is pi r squared. Whoa, it's blurry, no. There. Okay, plugging in the numbers just like you did yesterday, 3.14 for pi, and the radius is 7. Square the radius first to get 49, and then multiply that by 3.14. And it comes out to 153.86 centimeters squared. Number 9, finding area of a triangle. Area equals 1/2 base times height. In this triangle, the base right here is 16 and the height is 14. From here, you can multiply these in any order. I usually do things that I can do in my head first. I noticed that half of 16 is going to be 8, so I just bring that down, bring down the 14. 8 times 14, I might have to plug in my calculator, but it comes out to 112 feet squared. Triangle, for whatever reason, is the one that kind of throws people off sometimes. I'm going to do a couple more examples just down here. One thing that comes up a lot with a triangle, have a right triangle. Let's label the different sides, maybe 6, 8, and 10. And they'll say, okay, find the area of this triangle. The equation is area equals 1/2 base times height. The base of this would be right here, and then the height is the perpendicular height, which just so happens to be the side. So the base here would be 6, and the height is 8, and the 10 is just there to throw us off. We don't need that for the equation. So area, and then do what you can in your head. Half of 6 is 3, and then 3 times 8 is 24. I'm putting one more example down here. The other example situation that throws people off is when you have a triangle like this and just labeling it all. That's supposed to be a 7, by the way. Okay, so here's a triangle. They say, okay, what's the area? Area equals 1/2 base times height. In this case, you would look at it like it's sideways. This would be the base, and this is the height. So then you would plug those numbers in. Half of the base would be 6 times 7. Then as far as this goes, you could do 6 times 7 to get 42 and then divide that by 2. Or in your head, half of 6 is 3. 3 times 7 is 21, so the area is 21 units squared. Okay, next. Find the perimeter and area of triangle ABC, and it gives us the points. Luckily, they also gave us a coordinate plane. So just like we did before, we're going to find the perimeter and area of a shape on a coordinate plane. So perimeter and area. Now we're going to plot our points. And then connect the dots. Best way to do this would probably be with your ID to get a straight line. Okay. So from here, actually, area is the simpler of the two to solve. So I'm going to go ahead and solve area of this triangle first. Area is 1/2 base times height. You could technically use any of these sides as a base, but I'm going to go for the easiest one to work with, which would be using this one as a base because I can just count those units. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 8 units. And then your height is the perpendicular height from the bottom to the top. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4 units. And so area would be 1/2, the base is 8, and the height is 4. And then from here, half of 8 would be 4. 4 times 4 is 16, so the area is 16 units squared. If you were in a pinch, you could try to count the squares as best you can if you needed to narrow down answer choices. Then for perimeter, I said that it was a little bit harder than area. Perimeter is the distance around the shape. We have one of the sides labeled, it's 8, so it's going to be 8 plus whatever the length of these sides are. We're going to have to calculate those lengths using Pythagorean theorem like we did in the last chapter. So I'm sketching out my right triangle. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem to solve for that length. So just 4 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. And I get 32 equals c squared, so square root of both sides. So that length right there is square root of 32. This happens a lot where you solve for one side and honestly it's the same exact length as this side over there. If you couldn't see it visually, if you count it up, it's going to be up 4 over 4, so therefore the right triangle is the same dimensions, therefore this length is also square root of 32. And then you just have to solve this right here, obviously using a calculator. So in the calculator, you would do square root of 32. You get a weird number. Multiply that by 2 since there's 2 of them. And then add the 8. And we get 19.31 units. Okay. On the homework, there are some of these. You might get a couple of them. Sometimes they're triangles, sometimes they're just rectangles, so don't shy away from like graphing and doing all the work. This would be like one of the harder scenarios. Sometimes they might be just rectangles where you can like count the squares for the perimeter or easily calculate area. But that's it for today's lesson. I'm going to have you use the computers to get your homework done on Schoology, and then when you finish that, work on Khan Academy for the week. And yeah, so go ahead and grab a laptop, go to your seat, get logged on, all that